Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the columnist and broadcaster, Steve Richards, and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Salma Shah. Welcome and great to see both of you. So as ever, let's take a look at the front pages then, starting with the Eye, which says that the Home Office is to detain small boat migrants for sending back to France within days. Amid growing tensions over migration, the Express claims an exclusive with a report which claims that officials have no idea how many sex offences have been committed by asylum seekers coming to the UK. The headline, British state is failing to protect women and girls. That story also examined in further detail on the front page of The Times, the PM and police at odds over migrant suspects, their headline. Meantime, The Guardian leads with a warning from the Met Police that they will carry out mass arrests if a protest in support of the banned group Palestine Action goes ahead this weekend in Westminster. The Telegraph leads with news that parents with children at private schools have been sidestepping the imposition of VAT on fees by paying them before the tax came in January. The Sun reports that repair shop presenter Jay Blades has been charged with 2 counts of rape. The front of the Star carries a picture, apparently shared by a friend, of convicted child killer Lucy Letby dancing at a wedding while on bail before her trial. The Financial Times says that carmaker Tesla has awarded boss Elon Musk $30 billion worth of stock to keep him focused on the company after threats he would leave if he wasn't given more control of the firm. And after leaves on the line and the wrong kind of snow, the Metro says the latest reason for train delays, this time on Southwestern Railways, is the soil being too dry and making embankments crumble. So let's bring in our guests then, Steve Richards and Salma Shah. And we're going straight to the Eye. In fact, Salma, why don't you kick off? And this is the UK-France deal on what to do about migration, a critical issue, as we know, at the moment.
Yes, and in fact, we were all together when President Emmanuel Macron was in town in London when they signed this deal. So this is coming into effect. This is about the return scheme with France, a bilateral agreement, which is not normally the case with the EU, about returning migrants. And there's a lot of conditions imposed around it, but this is hopefully going some way to showing that the government is taking some effective action on this issue of migration. And we'll come to why that is important. But I must just point something out on the front of the Eye that I found slightly amusing, which is the Prime Minister as hailed this a product of months of grown-up diplomacy, which I find really interesting from a political slogan perspective. It does not really have the same kind of oomph as some other political slogans, but grown-up diplomacy seems to be what Starmer is going for as a brand.
OK. Yeah, I mean, remind us what this deal is. We've talked about one in, one out as part of it, for example.
Yeah.
And will this actually make a difference, which is what some people are clamouring for?
I'll come to the substance of it in a second, but it's fascinating tonight, the newspapers, because there is this August a real battle of messaging over this whole issue of asylum seekers, the boats, immigration. And we come to the impact of Farage, who's using August to pump out press conferences each week on this theme. But the government is trying to respond too. So in a way, this is its second hit. It announced the deal, as Salma said, when Macron was here, and it was the product of a lot of work by Yvette Cooper and others. And they're having another go with it now, really, by saying, well, it's about to start. This one in, one out agreement, which is sort of close. Salma will know more about it. That pre-Brexit, there was a sort of arrangement with France. So it's not as detailed or as intricate as that, but it will enable them to claim negotiation is working, forming alliances is working. We are going to reduce the numbers. Now, their opponents will scream by a minuscule amount. But isn't it interesting? They are really pushing the line tonight. There's a battle of ideas and policies being played out this August with huge political stakes, as well as, of course, the substance of the issue, which is so highly charged.
Yeah, and partly driven by those protests we're seeing at suspected asylums, asylum hotels, which is an ongoing issue. Let's go to the Times then, shall we? Which is Keir Starmer has put pressure on police chiefs to release more information about offenders at a time of growing unrest over the government's handling of the migration crisis. The Daily Express also talks about this. The British state is failing to protect women and girls. Officials have admitted they do not know how many sex offences have been committed by asylum seekers. Do we need to know more information, is what these papers are asking.
Yes, and look, this is really interesting, and it goes back to Steve's point, which is reform is really sort of taking the agenda in the papers over August. They are taking advantage of the fact that there is a lull in the news cycle. Parliament isn't sitting, there won't be policy that's being churned out, and they are putting their statement, and they are, making a lot of hay with it. So what's interesting in the Times is that you've got a front that is leading on the PM's words around applying pressure on the police. So clearly somebody has put a call into the police, into Number 10, said, what is the Prime Minister doing about this? And you're always under pressure to kind of show that you're doing something. So clearly this is a line that the PM wants out there, applying pressure. I don't know what that actually means, but he is applying pressure. And then you go to the Express, and this is the words of a Reform MP, Lee Anderson. And this is interesting because this is about the line that Reform is taking, which is actually, it's not about migration at all. It's not about race, it's not about othering, it's not about foreigners and all that kind of language. It is about protecting people. And this is the line that they've taken throughout. And it's not just about crime and asylum seekers, but it is feeding into that sense of fear and a protection critically. So I think these two fronts taken together are really fascinating around the pressure that the government is under and their need to react to something but not quite knowing what to do. And the fact that actually this is a message that seems to be cutting through from Reform.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come to a Home Office statement specifically on the Daily Express in a minute, but your thoughts, first of all, of this, because it was the fear element that Trump used to such great effect in his election campaign, did he not, about who was coming into the country? Yeah,
and clearly Trump is, to some extent, a model for some of the things that Farage is doing. But the government is faced with a dilemma, really, which is, so it's basically this story in the Times is a response to Nigel Farage accusing the police of a cover-up over the identity of two men arrested for an alleged rape. And then Number 10 have to say, right, do we join in or do we leave the stage to him? And if we join in, does it make us look defensive or what? But clearly they have decided that they are going to join in this kind of battle over August by, in this case, saying, look, the police do need to be more transparent about some of the this information that Farage had focused on. On the Express one, well, I mean, Reform have access to the front page of the Express these days, and a quote from Lee Anderson. I mean, they haven't got that many MPs, Reform, but you can get on the front page of the Express with it. So they have found ways of setting the news agenda on this highly charged issue. And I think the government has no choice but to come back and put their case, which they've done in different ways. Starmer on the police, the Home Office saying tomorrow the deal with France begins.
Yes, and on that Home Office statement, I mean, specifically about the Daily Express, I'm told, removals of foreign national offenders rose by 14% in the first year that this government was in office compared to the previous 12 months. We will continue to do everything within our power to remove foreign nationals from the UK. That's one. Secondly, in addition, they say we're going further than any previous government has done to increase transparency around the volume and type of offending by foreign nationals. Following the Ministry of Justice's publication this week on foreign national offenders within the prison population, the Home Office will later this year publish the first ever detailed breakdown of foreign national offenders living in the community. So the promise there to give more detail about who is in the community and the prison population. Will that pacify people?
I don't think it will get on the front page of the Express, but it's a forensic response.
But what is interesting about this is that, and with the Prime Minister's statement on the front of the Times, is that there is a responsibility that comes with government that doesn't necessarily come when you are a small parliamentary force, but can command the media. So this may be the end of the matter. I very much doubt it, because is this actually going to stoke vigilante protests? Is this going to sort of create more unrest? Is this going to lead to targeting of people? I think this is the question that we need to ask ourselves, and why chief constables are, do describe convicts or people at least accused of crimes, why it's at their discretion as to whether they release any details about them. And ultimately, you do have to trust your police force to be able to police.
And the Daily Telegraph on their front page, what is the breaking news tonight, which is the first deportations of Channel migrants under this new deal with France will happen within days. This is Sir Keir Starmer announcing tonight the one-in, one-out deal to return Channel migrants will come into force on Tuesday, with detentions set to begin by the end of the week. The deal has now been approved by the European Commission, we're told, means the UK will be able to send people crossing the Channel in small boats back to France in exchange for asylum seekers with ties to Britain. It will also mean that anyone arriving in a small boat can be detained immediately, and space has been set aside at immigration removal centres in the expectation that detentions will begin within days. So from that, it seems a seismic change. Whether it makes any dent in what has been an enormous number of people crossing, partly because of amazing weather we've been having, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, yeah, indeed. And what's interesting about this is that, to your point, Steve, the Eye has given it quite a good reading. I wouldn't. The Eye is a little bit more left-leaning, but there's no reason why it should be good about or positive about an immigration story. But there's a paragraph in here which is Sir Keir's deal with Emmanuel Macron means that about 800 people will be taken back to France by the end of the year, against the tens of thousands of migrants who have arrived since Labour won the election last January. So there is definitely going to be a real tussle between the left and the right papers on this issue.
But at least it's something. If you remember the furore over Rwanda, nothing ever happened, court cases, endless stuff, not a single person sent to Rwanda. So this is a deal which is the product, actually, of negotiation, which will make a small difference. But you're dealing here with numbers on a scale that are clearly the opponents will say this is marginal, but it is something.
And no wonder the government they took the money. Do you remember a couple of people took the money? But anyway,
to be paid to go.
To go people.
That's true. On the front of the Eye, though, there's just to build and elaborate a little bit on what you just said, Steve. The idea that this shouldn't be taken as the only single event. So Yvette Cooper is going to be working on doing returns deals with other countries as well, perhaps to replace what we lost in the Dublin II regulations, which was a blanket deal across Europe. So this is supposed to be really the test case, and to see if we can replicate this elsewhere, hopefully increasing that number of returns.
Yeah, and a statement from the Prime Minister said the ratification of the treaty by the European Commission will send a clear message: if you come here illegally on a small boat, you will face being sent back to France. Whether that is the strong deterrent he hopes it will be, as I said, we'll have to find out, won't we? Lots more still to come. The next part of our programme, though, we'll be discussing how private schools received millions of pounds worth of upfront fees as families tried to avoid paying Labour's VAT. That on the Telegraph. Back with that and more in just a moment.
In the last 5 years, more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK.
Is it going to be viable for the future?
There are farmers from across the country that have brought Whitehall to an absolute standstill.
We have to protect our farmers because they produce the food that we eat.
You've got to keep hope, because one day it's going to be okay.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
It's scary what's happening in the country.
It's the illegal migrants that we don't want here.
How difficult is this to police tonight?
Off the scale. Having the police speak to us so starkly right in the middle of the riot showed just how serious the situation was.
The water on board the barge contaminated with Legionella bacteria, an outbreak that was first revealed by Sky News.
There have been questions for months over whether the support offered to asylum seekers on the bivvy is sufficient.
A cruel place to put human beings.
From busy cities to rural communities, we spend every day reporting on how big decisions impact real people.
The last smoke and steam rises into the sky above Blast Furnace 4.
It just seems madness.
Lunchtime, and as the deliveries get busy, so do immigration.
When they make a crackdown like this, the messages on the WhatsApp group for the delivery drivers goes wild, and they all go to ground for a few hours.
They're helping terrified victims.
You've been a victim of a very common type of online crime known as sextortion.
We're making things better for people.
Stonehenge became the latest victim of Just Stop Oil.
Now I can say I've been to the Orange Stonehenge.
Sky News, get the full story first, free, wherever you get your news.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Turkey is burying its dead.
Whole families died in this collapse. Generations wiped out. I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
Anyone could say, I'll do that, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach.
This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me again, columnist and broadcaster Steve Richards and the former Conservative Special Advisor Salma Shah. Welcome back to both of you. Daily Telegraph, should we head there now, Steve? Parents have paid out £500 million to avoid paying the VAT on private school fees in advance stuff.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. Well, they'll only be able to do that once, you know, because the VAT...
All for a number of years, I think.
Oh, maybe, have they done
Yeah.
it for a number of years? Well, I suppose, you know, they have. But if by implication they're saying that the VAT won't work, I mean, over time, you know, they can't, as I say, carry on doing it, even if they've done it for a few years. Now, there is an argument, some people are opposed to it. I'm in favour of the so-called VAT raid. It seems to me perfectly fair, and the charitable status was not right for these schools. So it's, you know, it highlights a way round it for a bit, but not for very long. And I don't think the Tories, if it is them, who are the main opposition at the next election, will say they're going to bring it, scrap it.
Why not, then? That's interesting.
Because part of the election debate and the build-up to the election will all be about who represents fairness and that kind of thing. They will have to claim to... We're leaping about 10,000 hurdles here, and it might be Reform who are the main opposition. But I'd be surprised if they pledge to reverse that as a priority tax, in effect tax cut. So I suspect it will be in place, and these parents will have to find the money.
It's interesting you think the next, you know, election will be fought on fairness and not on the migration issues that we've.
Oh, sorry,
we've
no.
earlier.
Of course, no, absolutely, migration and one or two other things. But tax and spend is always a big election issue. And
I think
anyway,
it's interesting.
we're
I think
leaping
you're right,
quite a few
because
hurdles.
we're talking a lot about it, we being the Conservatives, in terms of the unfairness of the VAT on private schools. But is it going to be a priority? That's an important question, because there'll be a lot of campaigning and a lot of pressure to address some of this. But when you think about how many people are involved in this 50 independent schools that have had this essentially £500 million advance payment, this is not a big cohort. And the thing about democracy is it's really a volume game. And so, you know, is it going to be worth the...
No way. We're going into this, you know, tax cuts for wealthy parents. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult thing to justify. Unless public schools are saying that they're going to expand their charitable endeavours, I think it would be very hard to justify reintroducing or removing the VAT or reintroducing the charitable status of these schools given the connotations of it. And I think that is a really tricky point.
Let's head to the Daily Mail now, a story that is also on the front page of the Telegraph, in fact. The suggestion that Iran is plotting with the Taliban to exploit this lost database that includes exposed details of MI6 spies. This is a fascinating twist, if true, is it not?
Yeah, and it just, I mean, when the world is as turbulent as it is at the moment, each kind of dramatic twist has big consequences. So this relates to the, partly relates to the injunction drama, as the Mail calls it, over Afghanistan. And the information they might have on British spies and the whereabouts of British spies. And Iran apparently thinks, right, well, you know, this would be very useful for us. So, yeah, each episode has deadly consequences at the moment, or potentially deadly consequences.
I think it's also really important to look at, you know, how these groups actually talk to each other and that sort of nexus of communication, and how our enemies aren't sort of kept in one boundary or one national border.
Yeah,
and is that it is actually, if you have the same enemy, the connectivity, and they want to get a hold of the same kind of information that would be beneficial, it doesn't really have a border.
I'm going to jump to The Guardian, if I can. Processed food is worse for obesity weight loss. It sounds a statement of the bleeding obvious, you might argue, but they have managed to show that, according to the first study to establish a clear link between ultra-processed foods and weight. So this is interesting if they, you know, can prove a causal link, I suppose.
So this is fascinating, and as somebody who has often, well, in fact, you know, introduced a sugar tax on soft drinks when I was in government.
Very good thing.
Well, I mean, one has to argue about whether the impact of it was enough. So we're looking at this. It's a study done by UCL. It is basically comparing two sets of groups. One were given ultra-processed food, one not, and lo and behold, there is a big, significant increase in weight. And it's Chris Van Tulken, who some people might remember from as a telly doctor, but an actual doctor, who's commented on this. And I think the interesting thing for government is to work out what they do with this information. Now that there's a link, what are they going to do? Are they going to tax ultra-processed food? Are they going to ban it? What happens?
OK, Salma, Steve, lovely to see both of you. Thank you very much indeed. See you for more in the 11. Right now, here is the weather.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, storm Flores will clear overnight, leaving a calmer, although still windy day tomorrow. The Met Office amber warning for winds gusting to 70 miles an hour across northern and central Scotland and over 90 miles an hour in exposed parts expires at 11. Yellow warnings elsewhere, remaining in place for longer until 8 a.m, in fact, over the Northern Isles. So a mainly dry, reasonably sunny start tomorrow. Quite a stiff wind, rather chilly as well. Northern and central parts will see a scattering of showers. Northern and central Britain will see further blustery showers through the morning.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.